I had to get to a place where I was like, the truest thing about me is that I am Christ's, and everything else can go from there. And what he thinks about me matters more than anything else. You know, I was really quick to make excuses and try to kind of paint a picture of everything's okay, but things were not okay at all. And so finally, when it got to the point that it was overwhelming to the point that I was like, I think I need to step down, because one of the requirements for being a pastor is that your home is in order. And my home's not in order. And here's what's going on for real.
H1 united, come on, don't fight it. You heard it here first, now run and tell of the righteous riot.
Grace and peace, everybody. Thanks for watching Run and Tell. We're excited today about a special guest. We have Brenden McPeek with us, and we're excited to get into some of his music. I can genuinely say right now that I'm actually a fan of Brenden McPeek, whether it was from Shachah when he was with Cross Movement or the Soul Reformation. I still have my Soul Reformation shirt, and it's, you know, about that time to start wearing that shirt.
Comfortable shirts, bro.
Yeah, they are very comfortable. I have to say that.
Yeah. I was blown away the first time I heard you.
Yeah?
I didn't expect it. I was like, dang,
yeah.
my man can sing. Yeah. You had that big old beard then too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was cool because our paths crossed after a long amount of time.
Yeah,
we
was
ran
crazy.
into each other in Whittier,
Uh-huh.
and that was pretty cool and refreshing to see you. You know, because
Yeah.
I don't think I had heard any music from you for a while, and then bam, you popped up and you're just leading worship for a group of young adults out there in Whittier. And
That was a good night, man.
yeah, that was really good, man. So why don't you tell us what you're up to these days?
These days, what am I up to? Honestly, bro, every day for me consists of getting outside and being alone with the Lord. Like, I just go on these long hikes. I'm posted in the desert right now, and you know, there's like Joshua Tree National Monument out there and stuff like that. I just been on all trails, dude, looking for the best like trails or hikes. I just go hike.
That's cool.
And yeah, turn my phone off and just listen. It's just quiet out there, man. So I do that, and then I just write. I've been writing more in the last probably like 6 months than I've written in the last probably 6 years. Yeah.
Why
I've
is
been writing
that?
a lot. I went through just a lot of life stuff there for a few years, and I didn't want to write at all. I didn't touch a guitar for a year, which is weird for me. I mean, I play every day. But for a year, I didn't even think to pick one up. Like, they're just stacked in the closet, you know what I mean? And slowly but surely, I started kind of take it out, make sure it's clean, play it a little bit, a couple chords. I'm not feeling it. I just wasn't inspired for a while. I was just doing other things. But anytime I've tried to kind of put the gifts down, they don't let me stay away very long. So it was a couple years though, man. Probably like 2 years of just kind of silence. It was a time for me to kind of rediscover a lot of who I am, identity, and I had to shed a lot of misconception and shed a lot of like the pride that says I am who other people see me as. You know what I'm saying? I had to get to a place where I was like, the truest thing about me is that I am Christ's, and everything else can go from there. And what he thinks about me matters more than anything else. So yeah, that was something I had to kind of walk out. I just had to go get alone on those hikes and just walk out a lot of stuff that was going on, you know? Yeah.
How does one come away from that? You know, I don't know if you can remember when you first became, as you said, belonging to Christ.
Yeah.
And there's that zeal, there's that, as they call it, novelty.
Sure.
And there's no second guessing whether you belong to Christ in those days.
It's true.
But then things happen, things come along. How does that happen? You know, how did it happen with you? If you want to get into that with great detail, it's up to you.
Sure. Well, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, is faith really faith until it's even tested? You know what I mean? It's like, maybe. But when faith is tested is when you see, oh, that faith was real. Like Paul even says, he's talking about a couple dudes in the church, and he's like, they went out from us, proving they were never of us. So he's like, they left, so I guess they weren't really down. But it's like, my faith my whole life, I got saved by the grace of God when I was a little kid, man. I heard the full gospel at 4 years old. And I got it, like it made sense to me. This guy was preaching out of Isaiah, and he was talking about by his stripes we're healed. He explained sin. He explained our need for a Savior. And I responded, And so my whole life, it was not difficult for me to walk according to that response, to what had been done for me. It was easy for me to evangelize to my friends in elementary school, to pray for my teachers in junior high, to, in high school, try to walk circumspect and set an example of Christ on my campus. Things like this were not hard for me. But and then, I get into the music scene, and I just preached my guts out for probably 10 years. You know what I mean? And all those things, all my convictions and my perspective and the words that I would use and the illustrations I would use, 99% of them were based off of what I had heard or what I thought.
You're just regurgitating.
Yeah. And, that's fine. Like when it's the living word, that's one thing. But I'm coming from a place of almost zero life experience. Nothing crazy had ever really happened to me. Well, by the grace of God, I mean, I was thankful for that. Like my childhood was awesome. I had 2 loving parents. I had a great home. No big tragedies ever struck or nothing crazy ever happened. So I feel like for a long time, I wasn't on like a mountain peak, but I wasn't in the valley either. I was just somewhere kind of on the ridge, just existing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's where I lived for a long time. And the Lord used that season in my life. But, when I was maybe 25, 26, I planted a church with some friends of mine. And I really believed in what we were doing. It was like, okay, I've been to 1,500 churches in the world, right? I've traveled to, 20 different countries and worshiped with people and evangelized to everybody I could think of. If I were to look at the scriptures, put every single thing on the table, and just take off one by one what I didn't see in the Bible, what would still be on that table? You know what I'm saying? And so I helped plant a church that was that exactly. Like, okay, we're only going to do what we believe is mandated, what we think is necessary for the growth of the people. And I poured into that church for almost 6 years. It was like, I'm the worship leader. I get ordained as a pastor there. I'm teaching every once in a while. I'm doing a small group every week and just pouring into these people. And, at a certain point, unfortunately, I was married at the time. And that marriage started to degrade fast. And so now it's years of me kind of making excuses like, she couldn't make it this morning, or she wasn't feeling well. And, I was really quick to make excuses and try to kind of paint a picture of everything's okay, but things were not okay at all. And so finally, when it got to the point that it was overwhelming to the point that I was like, I think I need to step down because one of the requirements for being a pastor is that your home is in order. And my home's not in order. And here's what's going on for real. And when I first presented it to some of my people, they didn't believe me. It was like, what? No, that's not possible. Like, we've seen your production and we've seen what the Lord's been doing, and we can't reconcile these two things. Like, there's no way that this has been going on and we haven't seen it, And I'm like, I wish that was true. I wish it wasn't going on, but it's been dying for a long time. And here's what I've been trying to do, and here's what's happening. And so unfortunately, that marriage ended. Not something I ever saw happening. Mm-hmm. But I went from that ridge, not the mountaintop and not the valley, from that ridge straight into the valley. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as that happened, all the people I had been pouring into and my best friends in the world, I lost overnight. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we don't think you should be around us anymore. We got something else going on now. And it's like, okay. And the last thing I wanted to do was cause any kind of division. You know what I mean? I had really believed in what I was doing there and what the Lord had called us to do as a group. So I never wanted to go back and be like, listen to me, everybody. Like, this is what really happened. And this guy's a liar. And this guy's an idiot. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you know what? As bad as I wanted vindication, I felt like the Lord was like, that's mine. That's not yours. And if I do choose to vindicate you to these people, then I will. And if I don't, you need to realize you're vindicated by me already. And that's enough. Ooh, that was hard, bro. It was hard to walk away like that and be like, I know the truth and God knows the truth. And I'm going to have to sleep on that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Man, there's a good point right there that you just said as far as already being vindicated. Because in the moment, you're like, oh, it doesn't feel like it. I want to express, my side of the story.
For sure.
One of the interviews we did earlier today, guy, his interview will probably be posted next week, but he was accused. He had like 7 counts of child endangerment, penetration,
no way,
and false imprisonment, and he was innocent. And it was like a 4 or 5 year trial process, and he was acquitted. He was found not guilty. The Lord vindicated him, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he says, "I accepted whatever the verdict was."
Wow.
I put it in God's hand. But what you said right now was also powerful, which is we're already vindicated. Yes. Whatever's going on right here on the surface of this earth, what matters is in eternity.
Yeah. And
in eternity and now, he's justified us.
Yes.
We have been vindicated. Mm-hmm. All the wrath that is there in hell.
Yes.
We're deserving of it.
Absolutely.
And what he did on the cross has vindicated us already.
No doubt.
And so that's a powerful statement, man. And I think that's key to getting through certain things. And so
it is key, because when you really break it down and you search your heart and you open it up, you realize the reason I want vindication from man is because I want to be seen a certain way. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just pride. Mm-hmm. It's just pride that says, think of me highly. That's it. So if you can shed that pride and say, as long as God sees me the way I know he does, they can see me however they want at this point. And I'm not saying that was easy at all.
No, yeah.
That was difficult for me. And I lost a lot of people that I loved. But at the end of the day, I wasn't perfect, but I was ready to go through something like I went through, something like divorce that the church has a really hard time dealing with still, even 2020. It's like divorce and mental illness are, I feel like, the 2 big things we still don't really know how to handle very well. I get why God hates divorce. It's nasty, and I hate it too. Mm. But I thought this group of people, if anybody will go through the fire with me, it'll be this group of people. And very quickly I realized it was not that way. It was just me. Mm. But, like I said, I had to get to that place where his vindication was enough, because the Bible says real clearly, and this is just an easy way to think about it. God says, don't fear man that could kill the body. Fear God that could kill the body and soul. And it's like, oh, right. So people that think a certain way about me, they could maybe kill the body. Mm-hmm. But the way God thinks about me, he could snuff me out of existence completely. Like, we're talking about eternal things here, and these things are temporary on this side. So that was a journey for me, bro. And after all that, I went into just this place of from the ridge to the valley, deep in the valley. And in that place, it was like, that's where my faith was finally tested, because it was at a point where my mind was telling me the church is a joke, because you just invested your entire life into it. And the moment one thing goes sideways, you're shunned. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously not real. Oh, that was tough, bro. I seriously got to the point where I had to look myself in the mirror every morning. And I had to say that was a church, not the church. A church can burn you. A church can hurt your feelings. Mm-hmm. A church can treat you incorrectly. Mm-hmm. The church is being sanctified every day. The church will be presented as Christ's bride to the Father. The church will be perfect at some point. Yeah. A church might be caught slipping in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So I literally had to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, God is your vindication. That was a church and not the church. And if we're going to move forward from here, you're going to have to trust them. And I did not want to, because I felt like at this point I had trusted him with everything. So it's like, I trusted you with my life decisions. I didn't go to college because I went straight to the road to evangelize. I trusted you with who I chose as a partner. I trusted you with the people that I chose to associate myself with and to build with. And now I'm supposed to trust you after all those things burned. And so there was months of me just kind of lost. Not so much in the spiritual sense, just like, you know, when you get caught in a wave and you're just in like the rumble of it, and you don't know which way's up and which way's down, and you're just like waiting for this wave to pass. I was in that spot, man, just like tumbling. And it was months. And dude, I remember one night, it was like 3 a.m. and I was from a dead sleep to all the way awake in a moment. And I felt like the Lord was just like, hey, let's go. And I was like, no, thank you. What are you talking about? Let's go. It's 3 a.m. Go back to sleep. Next night, it's like 4 a.m. Hey, get up. Let's go. And I was like, all right, you know what? You're not going to let me sleep till I figure this out. So I put on some sweats and I just went outside. I started walking. And I walked and walked. And I realized on this walk that I hadn't been honest with the Lord since I got hurt. You know what I'm saying? Since I went into that valley place. I was still praying. I was still reading the word, but I was praying like, Lord, help me deal with this like rejection. Thanks. All right, later. You know what I mean? It was like, Lord, I think you're still good somewhere, but I don't know. You know what I mean? That's how my prayer sounded for a while. And as I started walking, I was just walking through the neighborhood. And the Lord was like, are you ready to be honest with me? Or do you want to just keep doing this weird like loner thing? And I was like, I'll be honest with you. And so then I just started asking all these questions. Why did you let this happen to me? Why did you let them think of me like that? Why did you let him say that about me? Why did you let this happen? Why did you let, why? Questions, all questions. And I felt like the Lord was like, okay, check it out. I could answer every single one of those for you. I can answer every one perfectly from every perspective you want to hear. What would it change? And I'm like, touche. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like, man, if I really did know that answer, I still would feel the same.
Yeah, you're like,
I'd
I don't know,
be
Lord,
like
but
upset.
it happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't know what it would change, but I want answers.
Yeah.
And boom, immediately I'm struck with like the 34, 36th chapter of Job. And Job says straight up, he's like, if I had some kind of cosmic lawyer, some mediator that I could take God into the courtroom and this guy would be the judge, I have a case against him because I never done anything wrong. I kept the faith. I was a good family man. I tithed. I did everything I did. Job comes to the Lord and says, you're lucky there's not some kind of way I could come at you, because I'd come at you and I'd walk into the court like a prince. He says that to God. And he's like, what do you have to say about that? And God shows up in a whirlwind.
38.
And he just starts asking him questions. God starts asking Job questions.
Yeah. Who is this that questions me with ignorant speech?
Yeah, he's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, okay. And he gets sarcastic, super sarcastic, and it's funny. It's like to the point where you're like, does he really talk like that?
Yeah, like where were you when I laid the foundations?
Yeah.
He's like, sure. He says, surely, you know, Job, you were right there, right?
Did you put the hook in Leviathan? You know,
He's like, did you catch one as a little pet for your daughter?
Yeah.
Could you do that? He's like, oh yeah, you know that one real rare mountain goat when it goes up to have kids? Where's it go when it gets on the outside of the mountain? He's like, surely you know, because you come at me with this speech like you're somebody. And you know, he goes in on him for chapters, and then Job falls on his face and he says, man, I spoke once, I'll never speak again.
Yeah.
You're 100% right and I'm 100% wrong. And God goes, got a couple more things to say. He goes back in on him. So immediately the Lord kind of brought that to my remembrance, and I was like, I'm asking the wrong questions. Matter of fact, I shouldn't even be asking questions. What I should be doing is just being honest. And so I was like, I'm hurt. I feel abandoned. I feel like everything that I invested in came crumbling down. and I don't know what to do anymore. And that's when the Lord was like, now we could start working. And I was like, dang. So I had to let go. And my mantra in that time became nearness over answers. Because often we seek God for his things, and you hear that all the time. But answers are things, you know what I mean? Or like reasons or direction, like these are all things. But he says, just get close to me. And when we're close, you see everything clear. All these other things start to make sense. But first, you just got to get close. So instead of answers, I just sought the Lord himself. So it started this pattern of every morning, like way before the sun got up, I'd get up and just walk. And I would just seek him for who he was. And that's when things started to be restored in my life as far as music and calling and like my identity, things like that. It was like, it's really easy to get caught up in the identity of that man would give you.
Yeah.
Pastor, worship leader, different things. And
Singer.
it's like,
I wonder.
yeah.
I wonder if that has been something that contributed to having to go back and say, hey, wait a minute, my identity is not what they say I am.
Yeah.
Because you're very talented, bro, and I'm sure you know that, you recognize that, and you have. I see your posts that you put on Instagram, and you have a lot of people that really enjoy your music.
Right.
But I wonder if sometimes in your just human nature, you see all the likes and all the well-wishing comments, and you're like, but do you really care about me?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
And that takes a toll on you, right?
Big time.
Yeah.
And it even got to the place when I said I wanted to step down, I was told like, hey, that's cool, and I'm really sorry that you're going through all that. We're going to be here for you. But in the meantime, like, kind of need you to keep killing it on this worship team, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I don't care about that right now. Yeah. There are way more important things happening. Yeah. And it just like you said, I went through this season of learning like, oh, some people think of you as a thing. Some people think of you as just a resource. Like you with video. Some people would only call you ever if they needed some video, right? And it's like, okay, that's fine if it's a business relationship. But if I think we're friends and the only time you call me is because you need this plug for this thing,
yeah, that's a problem.
When it's over, you're going to be like, wait a second. We never were friends, were we?
And it's so damaging.
Hey, that thing you did, though.
What thing?
Where you were like, I'm not going to text nobody for a couple months.
Yeah.
And see who hits you?
Hey, I did do that. Because I've gone through what not in the, maybe not to, in a different degree. I've gone through that, especially with the church.
Right.
And that's what I was about to say is that it is the worst thing when that type of relationship stewarding happens in the church. Because people who serve in ministry, people who are in church, the brotherhood, they're not assets.
Right.
As a worship leader, as a media person, as a Bible teacher, you are not an asset to this organization. We are all parts of the body of Christ that God has, purposed us for to walk and do his good works that he has created for us in Christ Jesus. But when we start treating people as assets, we take away that God-given calling on their life, and you're using them for your purposes and your schemes.
Absolutely.
Whether it's well-meaning, like, oh, your well-intentioned can be, oh, but this is for the ministry, this is for the glory of God.
Yeah. But people are going to be blessed by it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. But well, you know what? I'm not a thing.
No doubt.
And God is leading and guiding me as well.
For sure.
And so I think it takes a sensitivity to recognize that in the ministry, and I think people can become callous towards that because they're trying to keep the thing going.
Oh yeah,
but
sure.
There's a flip side though. Like, I guess when you find yourself in that situation where people are treating you like a resource, like he was talking about finding himself again, because why am I doing these things? Because you can find yourself like people are using you, like they need you in this way, this capacity, and that's never going to stop.
It's because
it's
you let
always, yeah, you let them, but they're always gonna like people are gonna be like, hey, can you come speak? Hey, can you come share?
Oh,
and
for
isn't
sure.
like, well, the Spirit led you. It's like, no, we don't got nobody else to teach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, okay, well, what do we do in this situation? And that again, going back to like really finding yourself and understanding, like, well, why is it I'm doing this? I'm not doing this because, essentially, I just want to help them. I'm doing this because you know what? This is another opportunity.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunistic approaches to this is a lot of times how we allow ourselves to, you know, even with people who are in manipulative friendships or relationships, you know, people are people and they're going to do what they do because that's how they are. But whether you let them is a big problem too.
No doubt.
You know, and so I think when you understand and embrace your identity, it's easier to not allow that to happen in your life because you're like, I don't care what you think. I'm a child of God.
Absolutely.
As it says in John chapter 1, as many as believe,
Yeah.
those he gave the privilege to be called the sons of God.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you have a full understanding, or as best understanding as we could have on this side of heaven, of what that means, of that title, I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care if you're pastor so-and-so, bishop so-and-so. I'm a child of God.
Absolutely.
You know, and if he's giving me some discernment to be like, nah, then I have to go with that because of what you
doing
said.
it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy. It's easy to get caught up in the opposite of that and say, I'm only worth something because of the gifts I have. So only when I'm operating in my gifts do I matter to the body. And that's just not true. Jesus is like, you mattered to me before you were born. You mattered to me before you did a thing for me. You mattered just as much then. You mattered enough for me to get off my throne and come down to earth. That's how much you matter. So before I ever strummed a chord or before I ever wrote a word, I mattered more to Christ than ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was depraved. I was lost. And that's when he pursued me. So why do I think, well, when I play these awesome songs, he must love me more or I'm worth more, right? Like to these people must think, oh man, yeah, we're all Christians, but some Christians are a little bit up here. You know what I'm saying?
That, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Exposing it right now.
it's just not true, man.
Yeah.
But you get conditioned after a long time.
Yeah.
Like from a young child to where, you know, you rap in front of your youth group in 7th grade and everybody goes, oh man, dude, the way you blessed me tonight, bro. And you're like, oh shoot, okay. So when I rap, I bless people. So that must be like that's
what I
who
do.
I am.
That's what I'm
what
here
I do.
for.
And that's what I'm worth. Okay, yeah, cool. And then everything burns and you're 30 years old and it's like, who am I now? I haven't played on a stage in 2 years. Who am I now? And the Lord comes in and he's like, you're the same person that I pursued before time. You're the same person that I pursued and went to the cross for. You matter more to me than you ever thought you did. You matter just as much to me now as you do when you're playing in front of 10,000 people. And when you yourself, because no one could do it for you, when you yourself have that realization and can hold on to your true identity, like there's so many true things about you, right? We're, like true thing about us right now, we're in Crestline, California, right? We're in the mountains.
Hold up. Don't say Crestline.
Where are we
We're
at?
in Cedar Pines
We're in
Park.
Cedar Pines Park, California.
You know, don't confuse us with Crestline now, boy. You know what
Hey,
I'm
I
saying?
can relate, dude. I can relate. If someone told me that I was from Moreno Valley and I was from Joshua Tree, I'd be saying,
Yeah, you're like, I ain't from Murder Valley. Stop it.
Oh, snaps. That's
but it's like there's a lot of true things about you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm a father. I'm a son. There's a lot of things true about me. But what is the truest thing about me? And the truest thing about me is that I am Christ. That should be where my worth comes from, where my identity comes from, where my passion comes from, and everything else trickles down from there. But you know, we're human, and a lot of times those priorities just get shifted.
Yeah.
So I mean, to catch up and bring it full circle, what I've been doing for the last 3-4 years is reprioritizing my identity and just getting to a place where if I do play or if I don't play or if I do minister in certain capacities or not, I'm still owning the identity of Christ's and going from there. You know what I'm saying?
And I think what you were saying earlier, as far as recognizing that experience should be limited to a church rather than the church.
Right.
You know, actually, Rick and I go back some years, and my first attempt at being in ministry, maybe it was a little premature, and I was kind of young. I was like 19 years old. I was already a youth pastor, and so
Happens.
I kind of got thrusted into it, and I got pretty discouraged when that ended. And I felt you said some key words that I said too. I was abandoned.
Right.
All my church people, all my peoples,
Yeah.
they abandoned me. But I had a few relationships or friendships that I think were key, and they were connections to the church. Even though we didn't go to the same church, they were connections to the church. And Rick was one of them.
Nice.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember this. We haven't talked about it in a long time, but there was like a few of us. And another one, Daniel, who's a good friend of ours. I had been discouraged, and they were like, "What happened to this cat? He nobody's heard from him." So he hits me up, or no, Daniel hits me up, and I'm like, "Nah, none of you guys really care about me." I was all licking my wounds, man.
Hey, was this the gas station?
The gas station thing, yeah.
Gosh, bro, he was in a dark place for sure.
Yeah, I feel you, bro.
He was
So check this out. You can tell it from your side,
All
but so I'm just kind of like feeling real sorry for myself, abandoned, right? And Daniel's living in Temecula. He's living in the next city over in Fontana or Ontario, and so all of a sudden I hang up on this cat, Daniel, and then maybe 5 minutes later, this guy calls me, Ricky calls me. And I'm like, "Oh, you only call me because Daniel told you to call me, and you guys are feeling sorry." I was making up all kinds of, excuses. And so I think he's trying his best to encourage me, but I'm not hearing it. And then it was a real bad time. I had no money. I was real young. I was real discouraged, man. And my car breaks down at a gas station. I run out of gas. Didn't even have money for gas to get home. And the only person I knew to call that was nearby was Rick, and he came through, man, and gave me some gas and actually listened to me, and that kind of, I think that was an intervention from the Lord, that prevented further discouragement, that was reminding me that he pours out his goodness on individuals through his people. God's grace, he uses the church to pour it out on the church.
Oh, yeah.
It's this everyday, ordinary means of grace, I think, as Mark Dever would put it.
Yeah.
And that was a key moment for me, because I've had other times of discouragement since then, but I always remember that even though I got discouraged at this particular church, that the church at large, there's genuine believers all over. And that's not to say that they're not genuine believers at that church.
I know what you mean.
But God is outside of just one particular church's walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was, I'll always remember that. And that actually created a faithfulness to God's people, not a particular place or wherever I'm attending at the moment,
Right.
but a faithfulness to God's bride.
No doubt.
God's people, you know?
Yes. No doubt.
This whole thing, man, like you were saying, faith is just a theory until you've experienced something. And
For sure.
I just appreciate the journey.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, because you think about, coming back from all of that, from being hurt by the church, embarrassed, the gossip, everything that comes with the turnaround, the ugly side of Christianity.
Yep.
And what's important is just to legit be there for people.
For sure.
And that's literally the journey. And
Yeah,
that's what I
just do your
appreciate.
best.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Be
Like
there.
the best thing
Yeah.
Job's friends did. I just sit there.
Right.
Sit there.
Yeah, they had
Like,
a bunch of whack counsel.
Yeah, they said all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah. And even thinking back to going to the gas station and find Miles, and he had
Yeah.
his creeper van there out of
I
gas.
said car. You didn't have to bring out the creeper van.
He had a creeper van. He slept inside of it. It was the
Windows
creepiest
all
van.
duct taped.
Yeah, it was
No,
like
they had
you
curtains.
saw it driving by, man, and you were like, "Kids, it's time to come inside."
Oh my God.
It was a creepy van.
That's so
But I didn't
funny,
say nothing profound that night.
Yeah.
No.
And every time I did talk to him to try and encourage him, thinking back, I always regretted everything I said.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A
And
lot
it
of
was like,
times
gosh.
it's just recycled.
Yes,
Like, hey
man.
man, I read this on a Hallmark card.
Yeah.
Last Mother's Day, I just want to drop this to you. bro.
Like telling him, like, hey, bro, just stop.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. It's like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about, man?
yeah.
Like appreciating the journey and just being there for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is, man. And to be honest with you, like, there was a lot of garbage going around, and like I said, I had to just let the Lord sort it out. But there were certain people I reconciled with by the grace of God, and I didn't want to. Like, I wanted to just be like, peace to all that. But there were definitely people that the Lord just brought back into my path, and was like, now be a man and reconcile. Like, that's what I would want. Okay. And that's all it took, is like just a call or just showing up. You know what I mean? It's not this big, profound thing. It's like we're all in a shared experience of being human.
Yeah.
And we all know, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not perfect at all. And we should all know that. That's part of what this journey has taught me, is that you're not that dope. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain things I used to wear kind of like a badge. Like, oh man, I never said a cuss word in my life. I never tasted alcohol. I've never this. And it's like, you get to a point where you get burned so bad that you're like, I was wearing a bunch of fake Boy Scout badges thinking that it was fly. And it's like, none of this matters, actually. Who cares? Like, for the glory of God, awesome. But for your little merit badge, that's just stupid, man. Like,
Because it
that's
means
not what life
nothing.
is. No.
It means nothing in eternity,
No.
man.
What is that?
What God cares about is how we treat each other.
Yeah.
Because that is how his glory is pushed out into the world. He said that they will know you are my disciples by your love for one another. Not if you were on your P's and Q's all your life,
man.
and I never smoked a cigarette. Like, God doesn't care about that.
Cool,
That's
man. Now,
it.
can we get back to what matters? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's like-
exactly.
and even if those things were done unto the glory of God, like, praise him that he kept me that way.
Yeah.
But what's the motive? Like, what's the heart behind it? Is it that you feel cool because you never did that? Then it's done anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like the guy in the street that's praying all super loud, like, oh Lord, this and this out in the streets, and Jesus is like, that guy, like, that's not what that is.
Yeah.
You see that? You see that guy over there praying by himself with the closed door? That's what I'm listening to. This guy's doing it for the gram.
Yeah.
That guy's doing it for real.
gram.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, I feel you on that, man. It's like real life. Like, the calls that meant the most to me during that season of my life were, hey, man, one guy called me. God bless this guy. He just called me and said, hey, man, I just heard some really foul stuff about you. But as they were talking, I told him to please stop. And I just called. You all right, man? And I was like, nobody else did that. Nobody else did that. They either said they heard some foul stuff and said, oh, man, that sucks. I knew that guy wasn't any good anyway, and never talked to me. Or that was like 99%. And maybe like 2 or 3 people actually hit me like, hey, man, I heard some crazy stuff, but I know you better than that. And even if that did happen, are you all right? Like, you good? That dude, I cried so hard when he said that. And he didn't say anything profound. He didn't say like, hey, bro, felt like the Lord just wanted me to call you. Philippians chapter 2 right now. And just start digging in. It was like, I didn't need that at the moment. I just needed him to say, are you all right? Like, I heard some stuff. What meant the most was he said, I asked them to please stop because they were gossiping. And then I called you. And I was like, you know what that means to me, man. Nobody told them to stop. They all listened except you. I'm doing better now, bro.
Yeah.
That hit me, bro. So it made me realize, and Paul kind of alludes to this too. He's like, yo, there's certain things we go through just so we could be there for somebody else in a roundabout way. And going through all that, bro, I was so much better equipped just to be a friend. You know what I mean? After that, it was like, unfortunately, I saw this pattern kind of happen in a couple of different lives that I was around. And I was able to just knock on some doors and be like, yo, I've been exactly right here. You want to go get some carne asada burritos? Like,
Yeah.
there's not much you got to do there. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you don't got to show up with the perfect words or all. You just got to show up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there's a saying, I think it's Chuck Swindoll. He says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
No doubt.
And a lot of times it's just being there and letting those ears work.
Yeah.
You and I were able to have like a kindred spirit there, man.
Yeah, man.
And so I think, and that's something that I know he's been wanting to talk about on this show for a while, which is kind
Really?
of church hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So
We've all experienced it, and that's
Yeah.
what's crazy. And not in a small form or like, hey, one person really hurt me.
Right.
Like where you're just black sheep.
Yep.
And you're like, yo, I need to bounce. I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I need to get out of this place because it's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, we've all experienced it. If you haven't, it's probably coming, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the way to handle it is to remember you're not perfect, just like they're not perfect, and that a church is different than the church.
Yes.
The church will not die.
Yeah.
The church will not phase out. The church isn't a joke or a bad idea or something that America made up. The church is Christ's. A church can be wacky as can be. A church can have you swinging from chandeliers and, taking all kinds of Kool-Aid and stuff. The church is strong today.
Yeah. Amen.
And, if there is somebody out there that has gone through or is currently going through church hurt, that was a church.
Yeah.
The church is still going. And if you are Christ's, you are still a part of the church.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Don't think to yourself, it's okay to say, I'm cool with Jesus, but not his bride. You can't do that. Ask Miles if you could say, hey, Miles, I'm cool with you, but your lady, I don't want to be around.
We'll be fighting.
She ain't gonna see me. She ain't gonna be talking to me. I'm not talking to her. You can't do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Same with Jesus. He's like,
Yeah.
my church is mine
Yeah.
and you're mine. So if that's the case, and everything in you's been lying and saying, man, the church is a joke. We made the church up. We this and that. No, we didn't. Jesus did. It's still going strong. If you're his, then you are part of that church.
Yeah.
And it's global. It's not American. It's not Southern California. It's not fill in the blank on the denomination. It's not that. It's Christ's and it's global. And if you're his, you're part of that church. And you got to start treating her right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because nobody's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
But one day we will be.
Yeah.
And the only way we will be is if we avail ourselves to him being able to work through us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
And not just like every man on an island, like, yo, I'm just, it's a weird time because it's quarantine, but not every man on an island just trying to come up with their own ideas. It's like we have to unify under the guidelines that the Lord set in place.
Yeah.
He formed his church, he died for it, and made a really clear model for us to follow after that. So it's like, I know it's hard. And I know there are things about the church, at least in America, in my perspective, that don't seem crystal clear or don't seem awesome, or it's been misrepresented on television and misrepresented in a bunch of different ways. But those are people that might have been a church. The church is there, and the Lord wants you to be a part of it. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
that is his means of evangelism. As cool as you might be, as many followers as you might have, if only so-and-so would get saved, then the Lord's message would go
Yeah.
out. It's like his chosen source of evangelism is his church, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's funny how we want to pick who. Oh, if only they. But look at who God picked. He picked
And look what's
Saul
happening.
of Tarsus.
Yeah.
The guy who was terrorizing the church, dragging people out of the church to kill him. And that's who he picks.
Yeah.
So it's like it's so fickle when people.
And what
like,
if I told you? What if I told you in 2007, hey man, in 2020, Justin Bieber and Kanye are both saved and both like out here for the Lord. You in 2007, I would have been like, and then everybody got saved, and then the whole world repented and was baptized, right?
Yeah.
But then you see it actually happen. It's like people don't care about that.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's some fruit from it, and great, maybe not.
Yeah. 'Cause
Maybe
they
for some
see them
people it's
as
just
a
more
tool.
confusing. Of course.
That's what we're seeing.
Hey,
Of
and
course.
that's what trips me out is that Justin Bieber actually got booed out at his own concert.
Did he really?
Because he talked too much, like giving the gospel,
Really?
playing
See, they don't
worship
wanna hear
songs,
that, bro.
and they just started booing him, and he was like, "I'm not gonna play no more. I'm not gonna talk anymore. I'm just gonna do the songs." And I was like, "Dude, how does that
Crazy.
even happen at your own concert?"
And it's that quick that you realize, oh, people don't really matter. The gospel does.
Yeah.
The church does.
Yeah.
Individuals, man, that's not the point.
yeah.
So how much of your new music reflects these thoughts and ideas and sentiments we've been talking about?
All right, so I probably got like 5 albums in the chamber, right?
Oh, is that right?
3 of them are everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
Open letters to different people, no names and things like that, but writing through, like
Yeah.
the Lord kind of told me at a certain point, I got to a place where I was like, okay, I feel like you've been healing me, and maybe I'm able to pour back out again. What would that even look like? And I felt like the Lord told me, I want you to write until your hands bleed. Like, write it all. So I was like, okay. So I just went to Target and bought like 8 just blank notebooks. And I was like, all right, and I titled them all something different. And so every day I would just write something. This notebook, put that one away, grab the blue one. Oh, the blue one's redemption. Oh, crazy. Okay. Redemption, this was happening right now. So dude, there's so many things that I have written right now.
How much of that is hip hop?
A lot.
Oh, is that right?
A lot.
Wow.
Oh yeah, a lot. A lot of it's hip hop. That's because, you know, dude, it's funny, like the genres and like the medians of art have their own slant already. And by that I mean R&B music already has a slant to be associated with love or couples or, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Reggae music already has a slant to be like universal and inclusive. You know what I mean? Hip hop music has a slant to be preachy. That's it. Like from KRS-One to Rakim to Mos Def, they're all preaching. Maybe not the same gospel you would preach, but they are preaching. So there was a second I had to get on that pulpit a little bit and just, it was the only way I could really get some of that stuff out. It's like, I ain't doing this Motown style. Like, this needs to be bars. This needs to be like ciphered out. It can't be.
Oh, snap. It's the return of Brenden McPeek, son. Is it the return of Shachah?
Hey, you know what's crazy? So those guys are still my brothers. They always will be. But Josh was the guitar player in Shachah. And we've been best friends since we were like 16. He and I have been working on some like really familiar Shachah style hip hop music. Yeah.
Really?
I don't know if we'll ever do anything with it.
Are you guys still signed to, is Shachah still signed to Cross Movement?
Nah, Shachah hasn't been signed since like 2011 or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're just going to do it independent style?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know. Honestly, bro, not to sound like a hater, but it's like when I put this other music out, if people dig it, great. If they don't, I don't care. Like it was so much more to me than like a couple clicks or a couple likes. It's like that was just my journal. That was my like prayer time. That was my devotion. If you dig it, cool. If you can relate, awesome. I'm glad that worked out. If everybody says it's trash, I don't really care. It's like, okay. I had to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how the Lord got me through to where I am right now. It's like I had to just write till I had cramps in my forearms.
Have you always felt that way about your music, like in the beginning as well?
No. For a long time, I felt like my music, I couldn't really take ownership of it. Like it was only a tool that was to be kept like just out of arm's reach. And so if you listen to like early Shachah, you would not ever know anything about me as a person. You would only know the message that I preached, which is cool.
Yeah,
but like that's all I did. Is like just trying to like be inquisitive with different questions that might make you think a little differently, or literally just shoving like 18 scriptures in your face for like 36 bars only. Yeah. That's young me. That's all I did. You know what I mean? Older me, it all comes from the same place, but I feel like I can take way more personal, like way more of myself and put it into the music, if that makes sense. Because I think there's a lot of power in that, man. I think there is. And with the soul Reformation, I went from like hip hop on a soapbox preaching the gospel to like Motown music, like 60s era soul music, which has a slant in like love and positivity, you know what I mean? And like all the radio hits you ever heard in your life were from that era. And so the message never changed, but the medium did. And the words sounded a little different because they weren't preaching like I was in hip hop. It was singing. And so that album's called Lover of My Soul because it was like, I'm going to sing about love, but I'm going to sing about a deeper love. You know what I'm saying? So you'll hear songs on that album that you might not really know what I'm talking about. But if you dug in, you'd be like, oh my gosh, dude, this guy's talking about his relationship with the Lord. Or oh my gosh, that's Proverbs chapter 8. He's talking about wisdom.
Yeah, the one I love from that album is the I Don't Want to Play Any Games.
Yeah.
That's
that's on that record.
Which was the one that got sampled by DJ Official?
The River. It was the River.
Oh, it was the River.
Yeah.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
That one is that's
See, but the River, if you don't know the story of Moses, you might just think it's a slave story, right? But it is a slave story, but it's of Moses straight out the Bible. So I don't know, man. I kind of came full circle. Like I saw when I would play shows as the Soul Reformation, I saw the validity of the message. Like I still saw people coming to me. I remember we played House of Blues Anaheim, and we sold it out, dude. I thought like people hear me sing at church all the time for free. Nobody's gonna pay like $20 to come see me play at House of Blues. No chance. Dude, we sold 450 tickets by ourselves. 700 people show up that night.
Wow.
And it was like, what is happening here? Like, do you guys know why you're here?
That's cool, man.
And so we just gave it our all that night. And I played that song, I Don't Want to Play Games. And before I did, I just gave a quick definition of grace. Like, you guys might have heard this word 100 times, but this is kind of what it means. And this is why I wrote this song. Dude, I got off the stage that night. You know, it's House of Blues Anaheim. It's not like a church or anything. And we didn't come at it like we were preachers. We came at it like we were soul singers. Dude, I got off the stage. The security guard side stage was a huge Samoan cat, right? And he was bawling. And he was like, can I talk to you real quick, dog? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, I never heard anybody break down grace that simply. He's like, my grandma used to talk about it when I was a kid, and she used to always try to make it make sense to me. It never made sense. He's like, but tonight it made sense. And I want to know that grace. And so I'm able to pray with this guy, side stage, House of Blues, and minister Jesus to him. I would have never seen that guy anywhere else. And probably if I would have got up there with that loaded clip, Romans 12, he might not have heard me.
Yeah, he'd have been like,
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I pray for that guy. I walk out to the restaurant. They comped us meals. One of the waitresses comes up and is like, hey, I heard what you were saying up there. Would you pray with me? And it's like, oh, so truth is still true.
Yeah.
Truth is true whether it's hip hop or whether it's a movie or whether it's a book written about aliens. Truth is true. C.S. Lewis says that. He's like, his space trilogy that he wrote. He's like, I don't care if I'm writing about a lion in a mythical wardrobe that you walk through, or if I'm talking about this green Martian out in space.
Yeah.
Truth is true. It doesn't have to be allegory. Truth is just always going to be true. You know what I'm saying? And I saw that from hip hop to soul music. I saw truth was still true.
Yeah.
And my impact as a person ministering the gospel on and off the stage was still there, no matter if I was like really coming at it hard or if I was kind of taking my time to explain different aspects of it. You know what I'm saying? So this new music, dude, it's like the longest answer of all time. But the new music is like, I'm 35 years old. And so all these things I've been through and all this stuff that I've experimented with musically now comes to a place where it's just me. It's just honest. And it's like I can talk about the valley a little bit, and I could talk about coming back up to the mountain again. And, you know, if you dig it, you dig it.
Yeah. So you want to share some stuff with us?
I would be willing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. How much of it is new?
You keep fishing.
I'm sorry,
He's
bro.
not giving, man.
I like the exclude. I like the exclude.
Oh,
you know
that's
what
what
I'm
you mean? You want that exclusive.
I want that exclude.
That's hilarious.
I mean, I could play some stuff nobody's heard.
Yeah.
Of course.
Cool, man.
This was me learning how to tear down false identity. Because when I went through all those things, I felt like, man, what is my mom gonna think about me? Like, what are my friends gonna think about me? Or what are those young people that I poured into? What are they gonna think about me? Or what is? And so instead of going to them and trying to like plead my case, I went to my pen and I wrote to him like I would talk to him. You know what I mean? So it goes like this. This one, the first verse I wrote straight to my mom. This is the first words I wrote after I came out of that season. It goes, I'm sorry, mama, I promise. I never wanted to get caught up in this drama. Perception was so brutal to my character and honor. But truth will often find its way to lighten and begin to shine and then remind the spark inside to burn again, cause I'm tired. I've been waiting for a change they said would come, but lately it's amazing how complacent I've become. I'm taking care of myself and doing all that I can handle, but the stress is getting heavy and it's weighing on my mental. Oh, the days of simplicity, from watching you in church and singing gospel. I was listening to having conversations at the hospital at Christmas. Then the look I saw you give me when my tears began to glisten. Tell me what to do, where to go, and what to say. Please tell me how I heal from this and make it through the days. Say that it won't always be the way it is, and it's a season, and God allows it all for a reason. Could you tell me again? I loved you just like a brother. The only other that knew me cover to cover. We kicked it into the summer. Your mom was my second mother. We grew to become men, but then again, that was the plan from the days in your Mustang, bumping the Rough Riders anthem, dreaming of how to get up out of town and really live the type of life we wanted, regardless of what it meant. And when we graduated, your college was set and paid for. I went and toured the world and did what I was really made for. Oh, the days. Oh, the days of simplicity, from cracking up in class and balling out since elementary to standing by your side watching your bride vow to forever be the woman that we prayed would come along and then eventually did. I was the first into the room for your first kid, your daughter. You were a father and I was her Uncle Bren. It kills me to think that she won't know my name, and one day soon she'll see me in a picture standing there right next to you, and when she puts her finger down and says, "Daddy, who is he?" you'll turn the page just like my brother turned his back on me. Yeah, look. I feel it. I'm in the moment now. I took it for granted when I had it, but I'm older now. Picked up some wisdom on the way. I learned some life lessons. They tried to pull me every which way, but my direction is moving on with the freshness that I could not explain. Not even if you granted me 7 years, but I'll refrain. Thought it was just me. I thought I grew resilient till I understood the meaning of art and color and perfect brilliance. I tapped into the realness. I drank of love and healing till I felt as if my spirit flipped. I'm dancing on the ceiling. Gone are the days of pretense. Faded are incomplete rants. The mountains higher. Lonely climbers are doomed to face chance, but I ascended. Or should I say was given height? A voice spoke in the darkness and called forth a radiant light. It's powerfully spoken. My only hope is to cause a focus, but not on the instrument, the composer who wrote the opus. What I believe in is even older than pyramids. It's more substantial than the most valuable businesses. They call me a dream chaser, human historian, awakened in the third, enter the proto-evangelion. The days are long and the nights, well, I guess we'll see. We're all in together till forever has to rest in peace. I whispered hope into the mic. I heard reverberation off of the walls of eternal justice. Emancipation sang forth with a splendor so profoundly other that it caused me to retreat and seek shelter till I discovered not only was it harmless, it harnessed just what I needed, of freedom from self, and seated me sanely right at his feet, and I felt safe. Felt sane, I felt completed. It seemed as if the void that was hungry once had been defeated, a feeling that was elusive until I got free. Or should I say until it got me, a feeling that was elusive until I got free, or should I say until it got me. I looked her dead in the eyes. I said I'm lost and I don't know where it started, but so many nights are haunted by my past, and this apartment is beginning to close in on me. My nose dips on me. Before you know it, I'm staring deep into the concrete, and well, I wish I had an answer. I wish that I could wake in the beyond like Black Panther and speak unto my fathers who could impart those years of wisdom, but instead I'm in this bed letting this pen depict my prison. Listen, if I had wings, I would, fly? Not today though. I tuck them back behind my back and watch the day go. Instead of taking off and watching waves splash in San Diego, or take a trip to Catalina just to eat a mango. Where is myself? What happened to that man who swore that with his talent and a dream that he could stand in front of kings, rulers, and magistrates, the desert place? It's cool for a minute, but I need a better map, cause true north has shifted, now it leans to the left. And it didn't seem alarming until I hit 1,000,000 steps and I came to realize that the problem was trajectory. And little did I know this walking stick was not protecting me. It only weighed me down when I thought that I could lean on the structures put in place to model grace and keep the team strong. But the light has not diminished, no, the beam is still a gleam on top of a gorgeous mountain like a phoenix taking freeform. I'm reborn. This is a bunch of stuff, man. I've just been writing.
All right, you guys. I hope you guys are encouraged. Man, with everything that was laid out today, just remember, man, that your identity is found in Christ. It's not what we do, but what he's already done. So hold on to the hope, and we'll see you guys next time. That was Run and Tell That.
Peace. Okay, you gotta give us a private show.